When I say I think this is one of the bigger innovations that have come in a generation, I'm trying to not be hyperbolistic when I say that. It's just an incredibly useful tool. And we found it in our testing to be insanely, insanely accurate.
Hi, I'm Adam Gower, founder of GowerCrowd.com, where we help real estate syndicators find more investors. Welcome to the Easy Win AI Real Estate Show, exploring AI's impact on the real estate industry. Each episode offers practical tools, competitive AI strategies, and expert insights. For essential news and updates, visit easywin.ai and sign up for our free newsletter with actionable how-tos like how I added hours to my day by creating this clone of me you're watching and listening to right now. easywin.ai, the only newsletter you need on real estate and AI. All right, so now back to the real me from that clone of me introduction to easywin.ai. Thank you for joining me today. My guest is Jon Hilley, who is founder of 1031 Specialists, and they have built a custom tool, a custom what's called GPT that you're going to learn about how to build actually in today's episode, that answers every question you could possibly have about 1031 exchanges in real time. It is fantastic. You are also going to see during today's episode a screen share as Jon shows us how the app works or how the tool works. So if you're not watching, just go ahead to easywin.ai, find the podcast page, and there's a YouTube video there. You can watch along, or you can go to YouTube and look up Adam Gower. You'll find me there probably under Gower Crowd, possibly under easywin.ai. Either way, you'll find it on our YouTube channel as well. You can watch as Jon screen shares and does some case study examples of how to use the tool. Also, we are going to try to embed the chatbot on the website at easywin.ai. So do go there, easywin.ai, go to the podcast page and take a look at the app there. All being well, it is, and we are successful in embedding it, and give it a whirl. If not, if you can't find it there, then Jon is going to tell you exactly how to find it during this episode. All right, that is it. If you've not subscribed to easywin.ai newsletter, please do that. It comes out regularly and includes all the latest news and updates on how the commercial real estate is intersecting with AI and how you can actually use it with some practical tools that you can use immediately. All right, that's it. Let's get on with it. Jon Hilley, founder of 1031 Specialists. Here he is. Mr. 1031, Jon Hilley, founder of 1031 Specialists. Thanks for joining me today. It's a pleasure to have you. Before we're going to do a screen share, I'm very excited to see this tool you've built. But before we get into that, can you give me just kind of a high-level overview of your background and how you got started with 1031 Specialists?
It is so good to be here. Thanks, Adam, for the time. And I am so much looking forward to this conversation.
Okay, good.
So I started my career in finance at Goldman Sachs. I then worked on the buy side as a hedge fund analyst, researching public equities. My mentor at Goldman then started a private family office where I was running research there for a number of years. And we were unconstrained and were able to invest across the globe, across asset classes and capital structures. And so we started investing in a couple of private companies, which then sort of shifted my focus in my career from analyst to operator. So I became the executive at a few of these companies. And my last one raised a bunch of money ended up doing a change in control sale to a billionaire. And then that sort of left me with space to think about what was next for me and my career. And my partner, Jeff, and I started working, sort of noodling this idea with a venture capital buddy around 1031s and the whole ecosystem related to Delaware statutory trusts and some of the really sort of emerging categories inside of real estate that we thought were interesting. And, after a sort of a 6-month discovery phase, realized that, to be able to do that was going to take $50 million and take 5 years to build. And I had just done that with my last company. I didn't want to do that again. But at the core of this exploration, at the core of the idea, were these weird firms called qualified intermediaries. And I said, that's a really interesting business, right? And so then that sort of kicked off a whole new exploration into this strange little world I now find myself in called qualified intermediaries, which are, for everyone listening, a independent third party required by the IRS to facilitate a 1031 exchange. So if you own investment property in the US, you want to swap from one to another, you can do that without paying a dime in tax by utilizing this bit of the tax code called Section 1031. And so we facilitate exchanges for investors across the country, and that we provide a very narrow service inside of a much larger commercial real estate transaction.
Fascinating. Right. So what inspired you? Let's get to the nub. To develop an AI tool specifically for 1031 exchanges. And what is the tool before we look at it?
Sure. So what inspired me to build the tool is similar to what inspired me to start this business and get into this line of work, which is there really hasn't been, Section 1031 has been around for more than 100 years. Okay. And there has not been any real new entrant of any meaningful stature, nor innovation in this category that I'm in the last generation. And so I looked at this and I said, okay, you've got a very small niche. There's maybe 250 firms in the country doing what I do. And the average profile is someone that's been doing this for 35 years that's about ready to retire. And so why is there an opportunity here? What can we do about it? What can we do that's different and brings a fresh take and really a web scale approach to this work? And when you look at, the 1031 domain, I call it an inch wide and a mile deep. Okay, it's very narrow. It's a very small domain of expertise, but it gets very nuanced and very complicated, and it goes really far down the rabbit hole. And you start thinking about areas that sort of fit this profile of sort of a fixed body of knowledge. Probably no human can read all of the pages that exist, and I'm talking, and I just did the math, Adam. So what we sort of created and developed to feed into the GPT, which we're going to get to, there's 808,000 words of policy, regulation, field notes, and opinion letters and technical memorandum that I don't think a human is going to read nor remember 808,000 words. So if you think about the domain that we're in and applying a GPT, an AI tool, to this body of knowledge, the thesis is, well, it can probably beat 99% of exchange humans at answering questions. And so we thought about what we were doing. We sort of designed the build around this, and let me tell you, the results are exceptional.
Good. So let's take a look at them. But just to put that into perspective, I've written a few books. 880,000 words is the equivalent of 10 long novels. Just FYI. 10 long novels, all tax code language. So not something that's, bedtime, easy reading on your vacation or anything.
2 pages, you're asleep. Okay. Take you 5 lifetimes to get through this.
All right. So why don't we take a look at this thing? So what we're going to do is we're going to screen share. Jon is going to screen share. So if you're not watching, we're going to do our very best to describe what we're looking at on the screen. But if you want to go to either the easywin.ai website and look up the show notes page for this episode. You'll see a video there, or you can find it on YouTube as well. Just go to the YouTube channel, look up Adam Gower. You'll find me there. All right. So, John, I'm going to let you take the wheel here. We've got a nice picture of you right in the middle. 1031 AI. I've been trained on the entire corpus of 1031 data. Absolutely love that. Revenue rulings, IRS field codes, and case law. So you can answer any 1031 exchange question in the universe in 15 seconds. Try me. That's what it says on the screen. So give it a whirl, John. Over to you.
Yeah, so this is the sort of internal tool that we have, and if you go to 1031specialist.com, you will see in a chat widget on the bottom right of the screen, you will see you have access to this tool. We are making it free to anybody to query and get questions answered. Why don't we ask a very simple question, which is, we can start with, what is the documentation required in a 1031 exchange? This is a very sort of, excuse me while I fumble my typing.
No problem.
This is a very documentation heavy, this is a part of a tax tool, and a lot of our work is we produce exchange documentation that gets clients the tax benefit, right?
Okay.
The deferred tax benefit.
So you entered the question over there.
Yeah, so I hit enter, I just typed a quick question. What is the documentation required in a 1031 exchange?
So while we wait for this to populate, just explain what a GPT is, will you?
So I think by now I've asked a lot of people, have you heard of OpenAI and ChatGPT? And everyone sort of nods their head and says yes, right? Mm-hmm. Anybody can go to OpenAI, basically train up a specific GPT and make it private or public, related to their domain of expertise. And there are a few different levels to creating that GPT and then training it up. But maybe Adam, what I'll do is I'll talk quickly about the levels, and then we can get to the answer if that's appropriate.
Sure. Yeah,
okay. Yeah. The first thing and why this is such a huge lift, at least for us, is you got to go get the data and information that is going to provide answers back to you, right? So this 800 and 8,000 words, we had to go and pull all of that data, okay? And it's not just this policy data. We have a lot of like internal marketing information and FAQs and things that we have developed over the course of the firm's existence. And also we have a particular voice, right? People know us because we speak, we're pretty punchy and we get to the point, and we try not to, bore you with tax code information. We want to give you an answer that's actionable, okay? Mm-hmm. And so our voice is also important. So it's not just feeding all of this information into the system. It's also saying, hey, put it in this particular voice that looks like our brand, that sounds like Mr. 1031, right? And so that's really the first level of work that is required, okay? And then you go down into the details, which includes the settings of the GPT and the instructions that then it executes against, okay? Such as there is a temperature setting, and you can set it to 1, which is creative, or you could set it to 0, which is do not be creative. And for everyone that might be unaware, in tax code, you don't want creative answers, not the actual answer.
Yeah.
And so you need to be mindful of how you're setting up this GPT to produce the results you want. Now, if you're writing press releases or something like that, maybe you want the creativity ramped up. Mm-hmm. And then it's the set of instructions that you give it. Where to go to find the answers first, how to preface the answers. And you'll see some of that through some of the Q&As that we do live here. And then finally, it's the sort of constant maintenance and training of this and the delivery of the interface that makes it super user-friendly. So these are all the 4 levels of work. It took us a year to develop this. We're really excited to be launching this because I think this really is an innovation in the 1031 space. And I think it will supercharge our partners, which are brokers, brokerage firms, and CPAs and wealth managers. It will empower them to get questions answered quickly, which is critical when you're in the client service business or a deal is coming and you want to keep transaction momentum.
So now I'm looking at the screen here.
Yeah. So now let's kind of look at with that sort of out of the way. Let's look at the answer that it gives.
Right. The question is the documentation needed in a 1031 exchange.
Yeah, and so it just goes down and it says the documentation required for 1031 exchange includes, and then it lists the exchange agreements, the assignment of agreement of sale, the identification notice, the settlement statement, success package, which is specific to us. So 1031 specialists, that's my firm. We produce this really nice success package at the end, which really provides a summary to the entire exchange that's been done. And then, of course, there's the IRS form 8824, which reports your sale to the IRS. So this is the exchange documentation that is provided during an exchange to a real estate investor.
So what other? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so let's ask another question.
Yeah, actually,
any come to mind?
It says included files referenced. So what's that down there?
Okay, so that is some of the files that are in our that we've trained the model in. It sort of references it so that we know where the answers come.
Got it. Okay. Sure. Okay, so what are the tougher questions that a 1031 exchange?
Yeah, so let's do something fun here. Okay, let's say I own a property in Miami Beach. That's where I used to live, and purchased it in 2020 for $1 million. I'm using for shorthand million. I am selling it for Miami Beach has gone sky high, right? So let's say I'm selling it for $2.5 million and borrowed 500K. What are the tax implications if I don't do a 1031 exchange?
Okay.
So I just hit enter and it's going to come up with answer here. So it generally takes 10-ish seconds, somewhere around there, before it starts coming up with the answer, and that is because it's going through this massive body of work. Okay, so what does it say first? It says, well, don't provide tax advice.
You don't provide tax advice. All right.
So
starts with a CYA.
Exactly. Okay, and we do say very clearly, seek the counsel of a qualified attorney, investment advisor, and/or accountant, because we are not we are not your CPA. Okay? Right. I'm a CFA charter holder. My partner is a CPA. We've got that expertise in house, but we are independent third parties. We cannot provide specific tax advice to someone.
Okay.
So the point is, we sort of preface this and say, hey, here is our calculator. You can click here. Okay. It'll automatically download the calculator for you. And I'm not sure, you can tell me if this shows up in your screen, Adam.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it did. You may have two screens.
But it'll download the calculator, and you can take that and it's an Excel file, and you can run your own scenarios. Okay. So whoops.
So here the answer is pretty cool, actually.
So there's the calculator, and you can get to.
Yeah, I can't see that on the screen, but that's.
I see. Yeah. Okay, so here are the implications if you do not do a 1031 exchange. Okay, there's federal capital gain. People are surprised. They think, oh, I just pay 15 to 20% federal capital gains tax when I sell a property I've held for more than a year. Not true. You are subject to many layers of tax potential. Okay. There's the federal capital gains. There's the state that varies. In Florida, there's 0, but in California, it's 13. There's the net investment income tax if you're subject to it, which is 3.8%. And then there's depreciation recapture. And this tool is explaining all of this to you right here in the answer. Okay. It's laying out the scenario. So original purchase price $1 million, mortgage 500, selling price 2.5. And it's going and calculating your capital gain for you. The depreciation recapture, which is it makes an assumption that you've taken 100,000 in depreciation, which is a fair assumption, given you've held the property for 4 years. Okay. And it calculates your federal cap gains, your net investment income tax, and then your total tax liability down here. So this is, you can ask this tool questions specific to your real estate transaction, and it will disclaim, provide a calculator, and then provide an answer to you. And this isn't like, these aren't preconditioned answers here. It is going through this massive tax code and providing an answer based on what you give it. And you can say, okay, we can say down here that, hey, you know, let's say I live in California, okay? And I'm hitting enter. I live in California. Okay, so I think what it might do, I've never done this particular example here, but it may recalculate the tax based on the state tax in California, not the 0% tax in Florida.
All right, so let's take a look at that.
Let's give it a second.
And then you've trained this using a lot of documentation, some FAQs, etc.
Oh, this goes back to documentation.
Oh, okay, yes. I thought you asked the first one.
Yeah. So I need to say calculate my taxes. What I need.
If in California,
yeah. Okay, so it's actually combining both answers. So it is going down into it because I wasn't very specific. So it even sort of solves for the human element here, where I'm just typing in I live in California and I'm sort of expecting it to figure out what I'm asking.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of the key, isn't it? With any I mean, I'm going to call it an LLM. It has included California state tax there.
It has. So it says, as a California resident, you will also be subject to California state taxes on the gain. And so then it comes down here and it says you've got, you know, 199.5 thousand of state taxes, which is correct. It's 13.3% of your gain.
In addition to
it is, if you go and go to any other qualified intermediary's website where they have a chatbot and you know ask it a question. First of all, it doesn't have this tech in the background. It's got a human answering. And the human's going to say, well, it's just going to go back and forth with you for 5 minutes before it gives you an incomplete answer. And here at 1031specialist.com, you get the answer in 10 seconds, specific to your scenario. When I say I think this is one of the bigger innovations that have come in a generation, I'm trying to not be hyperbolistic when I say that. It's just an incredibly useful tool. And we found it in our testing to be insanely accurate.
So I'll tell you what, let's jump out of the screen share, if you don't mind. I'm going to stop you from screen sharing for a minute. So who is your target audience for then? This, like, who's your user avatar? How are you planning to monetize this thing?
So part of what I am trying to do is increase the awareness around 1031s. Okay, even though this has been around for a century and it's sort of more modern version 50 years, about 1 in 7 commercial real estate transactions, investment property transactions, are 1031 in this country. And I think it should be closer to 1 in 2. And I think part of the reason it's not is because the education and the awareness of this isn't out there in a way that makes it accessible. You know, nobody provides a short punchy answer. They give you a long legal attorney answer that you're still scratching your head confused about. And so number one, I think the pie can grow here because, Adam, do you know the downside of exploring a 1031 and not being successful at it?
You pay a lot of tax.
You're going to pay the tax just as if you sold the property without doing it. So there is actually no meaningful downside to exploring a 1031 versus just selling the place. And yeah, there are regulations and timeframes you need to hit to be successful at a 1031 exchange, but they're not. They're totally manageable. Okay. But my sense is people aren't doing this. They don't understand that there really isn't a big downside, if any. And it's this big, scary subject matter. And so this is a free tool. And the people that are using it are commercial real estate brokers, the clients of commercial real estate brokers, and real estate investors themselves. We have RIAs, registered investment advisors, wealth managers using the tool. We have attorneys that specialize in 1031 that have been using the tool and giving us feedback. And it's most of the feedback. In fact, we've gotten dozens and dozens of sort of replies back because we sort of released this quietly for the last month or so and have been just banging on it a lot. The feedback is, in a word, it's wow. I can't believe that it's this easy to get these really complex questions answered for me. And so, yeah, so the goal is we're giving it away for free. Obviously, we hope that leads to us facilitating exchanges for investors. But if not, it is a tool for everyone to bookmark. They can just bookmark the site. Anytime they have a question, ask this site. I will make a distinction quickly, Adam. You can go to ChatGPT, OpenAI, and ask it some 1031 questions. Please don't do that. There is a lot of creativity in their answers, and it is not trained on the specific body of knowledge we have trained ours in. So while the very basic, what are the exchange timeline questions, you can ask it, please bookmark and save ours and ask ours, because it is the right tool and the right body of information and knowledge.
Just remind me, we're not looking at the screen now. What is the URL for that landing page?
It's my website. It's 1031specialists.com, and that's specialist with an S at the end, so it's plural. 1031specialists.
And that will take you straight to the chatbot.
It will.
So, in terms of training this thing, I just actually partially wrote a book on tax benefits of investing in real estate. I've not published it yet. I've been so busy.
Oh, wonderful.
But one of the discussions I had was 1031 exchanges, of course. And one of the questions that I asked my guests was, what are the biggest mistakes people make? Can you ask that of your tool? Is it going to understand what kind of mistakes to make and avoid? And if so, why don't you go ahead and screen share again? I see you now busily typing.
I'll add, so the question, Adam, is what are the biggest mistakes an investor can make
when attempting a 1031?
When attempting a 1031.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll just read the answer, I think, unless you prefer I screen share.
Yeah, could you mind? Let's have a look at it. It's kind of cool as well. We don't do screen sharing very often over here. So we'll take a look at that. And while you're waiting for, there we go. Okay, here it is.
Okay, so I've asked it the question. Okay. What are the biggest mistakes an investor can make when attempting a 1031 exchange? And here are the biggest mistakes. Not hiring a qualified intermediary. A qualified intermediary like 1031 specialists is required if you're going to do a 1031 exchange. You have to hire someone like me and my firm to facilitate your exchange. Number two, very big one, taking constructive receipt of funds. When you sell, if the money touches your bank account, even for a second, it is a taxable transaction. You have disqualified yourself from doing a 1031 exchange. Number three, poor planning and rushing to identify replacement property. Self-explanatory, that's bang on. Number four, underappreciating legal steps and IRS rules. So a lot of the challenges of a 1031 come if you don't hire a QI before you sign the contract. You sign a contract, you're in a partnership that wants to break up. That becomes much more challenging. And so this is what it's saying is, you gotta contact 1031 specialists or someone like me to understand the legal steps that need to happen before you even sign the contract to close. Okay. Number 5, ignoring firm deadlines. The 45-day and 180 deadlines are strict. Okay, that is accurate. Number 6, not understanding the concept of boot. Any cash or non-like-kind property received is considered boot and is taxable. And number 7, failing to engage with a CPA or tax advisor. That is very true. Your CPA will be filing Form 8824 that says, hey, I sold an investment property, but I chose to 1031 exchange. And so they need to be involved to understand. So those are the 7 common pitfalls. How does that answer look to you, Adam?
Well, it sounds fairly thorough to me. I'm kind of on the verge of doing another 1031. It's actually my entire life in America in real estate started with 1031 exchanges, believe it or not, in the mid 80s. Goodness me, I hate to admit it was that long ago. It was very complicated. We had an investor that had a 1031 and the others didn't, so we had to do a tick, and it was like a whole thing. But it was baptism by fire. It was one of my first deals 100 years ago. So how are you? So I asked you who your target audience is and user avatar. But so are you planning on just holding this on your own website as a competitive advantage to drive traffic and get business, or are you thinking of licensing it to other intermediaries, QIs around the country?
I think it's probably more likely that we give it away or embed it in the workflows of commercial real estate brokers and people that are inside of transactions that have a bunch of questions. I think the other QIs should go rush and spend a year building a tool like this because this is just that good. And honestly, if you add, instead of calling, the number and getting a human, you just ask the chat, it will probably 9 times out of 10 answer the investor's question. And so, it's an efficiency thing, it's a wow thing, it's an immediacy thing, meaning I'm getting my answer right now. I don't need to wait. I don't need to wait for a callback if the phone's not answered, whatever. So yeah, I think, distributing this broadly in someone's existing workflow so they can just ask a question if they're a broker or a lender or something like that makes all the sense in the world, and we'd love to do that with our partners. Yes.
And are you going to allow it to embed for users to embed the tool on their website? How is that going to actually work?
We can easily do that. Absolutely.
All right. So maybe once you get up and going, maybe we can embed it on easywin.ai if you're up for that.
That would be fantastic. Let's do it. That'd be
all right,
great.
good. So I'll definitely take you up on that. I'm
awesome.
We can work with the tech and getting that embedded. I'm not sure how you do it, if you just do an iframe, whatever, but we'll deal with that.
It's really not hard because we have a custom chat we've created. This whole thing, this whole UI you've seen is custom. And so we can take that and express that on your website with a few lines of code.
All right, cool. Let's do it.
Yeah, love it.
All right, so I'll tell you what. Gosh, how much time? Yeah, so I like to try and keep these down to 30 minutes or so, the average commute time in America, unless you're in California, of course, in which case it's like 10 times that. So let me ask, how are you planning on marketing it? What's your strategy for getting this out? I know you said you're going to launch sometime early July. We're at kind of late, goodness me, June already. So what are your plans? What are your plans for the future? What are your marketing plans?
I have always these illusions of grandeur about how important I am and the things we're building are, but nobody cares. It needs to be useful to those that have questions. And so, sure, we're going to do a marketing push, and we're going to try our best to let the world know. We just posted our sort of marketing video on X yesterday, and it went semi-viral. So I don't know if this is going to be to that level. But the real utility is in using the tool. And so, you find that you go and tell people about it, and maybe they care, maybe they don't care. But when they have an exchange question, they'll remember you. And they'll go to your website, they'll get their question, they'll get the help they need quickly, and you will be able to wow them, because this tool does wow people. And if you can wow someone, you're building trust in that, the relationship, they're trusting you. And then ultimately they will choose you as the qualified intermediary. I mean, that's our goal, is we want to facilitate exchanges for real estate investors. And we also are the most friendly company out there. So not only do we give a bunch of tools and information away for free, like the calculator and the ebook and other things, but if you don't want to do your exchange, you're in the middle of it, you just say, I want to opt out of this thing. Well, we don't charge very much money. We charge $1,200, but you get that back. We give that back to you. So we are really looking at this as, how do we be the most investor-friendly firm out there? How do we provide the most value so people know who we are, like us, and trust us? And so all of this just comes from building relationships, Adam, I think, slowly over time, not from a marketing push that happens, in the first week.
So this kind of drilling down on this rabbit hole, I probably shouldn't go too deep on it, but I am interested. Have you considered, let's have a look, like putting together a massive amount of SEO optimized 1031 content on your website to also drive traffic to the tool, and embedding links in each one of those that say, try our chatbot, click here, kind of thing?
So it's interesting, Adam. I'm a finance guy, and the hypothesis sort of entering this market was, oh, we're going to buy a qualified intermediary, and we're going to start that way. We're going to start with an existing business, an owner that's retiring, and and so I asked one. I said, hey, you've got maybe the best website in the country. Tell me about this as sort of your acquisition tool. How does this work for you? Oh, probably about 50% of business comes from my website. I said, oh, that's really interesting. Like, how do they find you? Like, what's sort of driving that? Oh, well, my son years ago told me I needed to write articles on my blog. So I did.
Yeah.
And it took me 5 years, but I wrote 150 articles. Okay. And I said, wow. Okay. So we didn't end up doing anything. He's still in business, but it took him 5 years to write 150 articles.
Well, I know, but it take you about 5 days to do that. Are you kidding me?
So the key learning, and what we were doing anyways before we even talked to him was so we used a tool that is a chat GPT powered tool, but really created by marketers, by content marketers online. And I just unleashed 5,050 articles in 60 days. Okay. And I said, well, this guy took him 5 years for 150. I've got 5,000. I've got 5,000 additional, 4,900 more articles than he does. Okay. In 60 days. And we were at this moment in time, and we're still there, right? Where whatever business you're in, your competitors are not using AI tools, and you can. And if you do it, and Google hasn't really caught up to all of this just yet, but you can go out there, and I'm not saying these articles are the most insightful, beneficial articles that exist, but they're on the blog, and so we keep that sort of separate kind of.
Right, I'm just looking at your blog over here.
But it's the intent of that exercise was to target keywords that then get people to your website, that then learn more about you and your background, and start believing that you're the right firm.
Look at it. I'm just looking at your website now. I'm having a look at random articles. Whoever did this structured these exactly right. The on-site SEO is really spot on. So have you seen any impact in that? I actually just shut down one of my primary tools, damn it, for measuring website traffic. But are you finding traffic? Are you getting traffic?
We are already ranking in the top 10, and we're a new firm. Okay, some of these firms have been around for 30 years.
Right.
We're already ranking in the top 10 for some of the critical keywords. And this is the AI SEO project is about a year old. Okay, so it's new relative to the market, and it's already having a big impact. And so I would just encourage anybody, leverage these things for your benefit now, while nobody else is, so that you get the edge and create the name and build the audience that you're seeking.
Fantastic. I can't wait to see how that works. I am trying to multitask here. Probably shouldn't do it in such super speed. But I did just close down my account, one of my accounts. Let me see. Did this work? Oh gosh, I'm not going to bother with that. Jon, fantastic to meet you. I've been excited to talk about this, and I'm very keen to start playing with the tool. Actually, like I say, I've got a 1031 coming up. So I shall field test it against. Actually, we should talk about being a QI. You can work all over the country, can't you?
We do. Yep.
All right, perfect. Let me ask you three rapid fire sign off questions, if you don't mind. I ask all my guests the same thing.
Love it.
And the idea is to give people practical ideas about how to use AI, because there's so many amazing tools. It's like, how do you actually use it in real life? So first of all, let me ask you this. Why do you think real estate professionals should be paying attention to AI in general today?
We hear a lot, particularly from broker partners that have been, doing the business for 40 years. And there's this sort of embedded fear. Okay. But for me, this is an empowering tool. This is a tool that gets you where you want to be faster and keeps momentum going. And so everyone, I think, has the same goals, which is close more deals, be more responsive, get more business. And that's what AI allows you to do.
Second question. It certainly does. Second question. All right. So, Jon, how do you use AI on a daily basis? What tools and apps do you use, assuming you use it daily? Or what apps do you use most frequently? How do you use them?
So we use the tool that we have developed internally, this Mr. 1031 AI tool. We use this every single day. I had a client call with a weird question. Hey, I bought a ranch. I'm clearing out the brush. I spent $80,000 doing brush clearing. How does that impact my taxes? I said, oh, it's really nice to meet you, Bob. And then I started typing in the tool. And that is considered, brush clearing as a capital expenditure, which increases your basis. So if you don't do a 1031, would lower your tax. We use the tool we developed all day long. It is fantastic. And I screenshot answers to people on Twitter and X and other platforms. So if you have a question, you can definitely DM me and I'll get you the answer real fast.
Do you use any other tools though? Just to in productivity tools or anything that you use in your daily work?
Well, I use the standard ChatGPT for writing help all the time. We've got a press release that we are going to do to announce the launch of the AI tool, and that's going to be a core starting point for me. Now, of course, it's just a starting point, and then I take it and I edit on top of it, and I make it the way I want. But yes, the ChatGPT is an amazing tool. We're starting to explore ARC ads, which is avatars that look like humans that allow you to spin up adverts and commercials really easily and really cheaply. And you can spin up 20 social ads for €100, and it takes an hour.
What's that? What's that platform called, Jon?
That's ARCH ADS. Ads.
Hmm. And you're going to be doing some advertising?
We will just things that sort of get the message out a little bit more efficiently, particularly on social. If you saw the video we posted on June 25th, 2024, this is our sort of promo video. That's a real production. We went to LA, we filmed it with a buddy of mine's studio, and the cost is high. The production time is long, the editing time's long. But through these AI tools, you can get a message out there almost instantly. One of the things we want to do is a side by side of our AI versus the chat of a couple of our competitors, a couple of our qualified intermediary competitors, showing the results of ours versus theirs. And so, you can do all of this video editing, all this other stuff really easily these days, which is great.
All right, last quick fire question. So show is called easywin.ai. The idea is to give people something that they can take away immediately after listening and go and do that they didn't realize AI could do. And you've talked about 1031 specialists in your chatbot. But in addition to that, are there any kind of eureka moments that you've had when you've discovered the power of using AI that you can describe that somebody could go ahead and try themselves right now?
So I have an 8-year-old son who's learning math, and Khan Academy has, in partnership with OpenAI, has developed a individualized tutoring module for kids to learn math. And the AI is patient, it is kind, it explains how to derive the answer, so you're thinking through step by step in a way that I don't have patience for if I ask you, a simple multiplication question that is simple for me, of course, for him is a challenge. But yeah, this for parents, the Khan Academy app is extraordinary, and it just gets your kids smarter faster. And I love that.
That's really cool. I love that too. Thank you for sharing that for sure. Mr. 1031, Jon Hilley, founder of 1031specialists.com. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's a real pleasure.
It's been fun. Thanks, Adam.
All right, that was Jon Hilley, who is Mr. 1031, as he's known, founder of 1031 Specialists. Super useful tool. As I mentioned during the show, I'm going to be doing another 1031 coming up. So I am looking forward to putting his app through the training ringer. I'll see how many questions I can put in there and see how many I can get answered. Very much looking forward to trying that. And thank you for joining me. Jon, what a pleasure meeting you. I really enjoyed our conversation. I look forward to following up with you. And thank you also, dear viewers, for joining me today. If you've not already subscribed to the easywin.ai newsletter, please do that at easywin.ai. Comes out regularly, and we cover everything in the latest news, which is changing all the time in the world of AI and its impact on commercial real estate, with a focus on providing you with easy wins, tools that you can use immediately to advance your career and your skill set and your productivity in commercial real estate, all there at easywin.ai. All right, that's it for today's episode. Thanks very much for joining me. I look forward to seeing you next time. Until then, this is Adam Gower signing off.